Okay, guys, this is going to be the first game of a three-game Kings of War tournament at Southern Assault. This was on the Friday before the main Warhammer tournament. I'd never played Kings of War before. I've seen people play it, read the rules, the beta rules. So this will be a completely new adventure for me. I come in here, no experience. Let's see how I do. I'm playing Orcs and Goblins. Goblins have to be allies because they have their own separate list. And as long as I can play with them as allies or play Orcs as allies with my Goblins, I'm okay. If there's no allies, I have no interest. I'm gonna say I have no interest in playing just Orcs and no interest in playing just Goblins. By themselves, they're extremely bland in Kings of War, I think. But together, they're almost exactly the same as Warhammer as far as choice goes. Just a few odds and ends different. But as long as I can play them together, then I feel like I won't be missing much from Warhammer. I'll be missing some of the, well, a good deal of the customization, but almost all my models I can still use. Okay, now before we get into the actual battle report, for people who are not familiar with Kings of War, I'm going to go over some of the big differences. There's so many differences that I can't go over all of them, but in order to better understand this report, I'm going to try to go over some of the differences and some of the things that are different in Kings of War so you can understand it better. First, let's go off with the phases. Like, in Warhammer, you have your movement, your magic, your starter turn, all this other stuff. Alright, in Kings of War, you have three basic phases because they combine magic and shooting into one phase. So you have your movement, and broadly, you can always pre-measure, but you do not have random charges, so you'll always know whether you can make the charge or not. Now, this is going to, make things a lot different than in Warhammer. Now, for one thing, you do not declare all your charges at once like you do in Warhammer. If you have a unit like in front, like a screening unit, you can tell that unit to move out of the way. You move it out of the way, and if it can move out of the way and clear a charge for the unit behind it, then you can charge that unit behind it. So if I have like Orc archers in front of boar boys, if I can move those Orc archers to get them out of the way, then boar boys, if they're in charge range, they can charge the unit. That is very, very interesting. You have to really think about that, and you have to understand that just because there is an enemy unit screening a unit behind it, that you might still get charged, so you have to be very careful about your movement because of that. Now, next we're going to have magic and shooting. There is modifiers for shooting, and I think it may be very rare modifiers for magic, but most off, magic is always going to cast on a 4+. I'll get into that more detail in my next little part here. But for now, these are all combined into one phase. So you can use a caster, you can cast a spell, then you can shoot a unit, then you can cast, then you can shoot. You cannot dispel magic, but overall magic is much toned down compared to Warhammer, so it's not going to matter too much that you can't dispel it. At least for now. If in further editions they make magic a lot more powerful, then they'll probably have to introduce some sort of dispelling thing into the game. Alright, your third phase is going to be your melee phase. Now, the most important thing about this is that your charging unit is going to attack, but you do not attack back. So if you get charged by an Orc unit that has 20 attacks, that Orc unit is going to do 20 attacks against you. You don't fight back. At the end of that melee, if you've done damage to the enemy unit, you're going to test to see if you can break that unit. So you don't get to take your own leadership tests. So that's going to be a lot to get used to. So if you either waver or break that unit, then that unit wavers or breaks or something, and then if you don't break them or waver them, you move 1 inch backwards, and then the enemy unit can choose to countercharge you if they have not wavered. That's more than I can really get into right now, so just try to remember that for the report. Okay, now we have the broad strokes. Let's try to get into a quick rules guide so you can understand some of the things that are happening. Okay, first off, just to go over my army composition. This is completely different than Warhammer. Mainly, in order to take things like heroes and war machines and monsters, you need to take things just like the old Skaven rule where you had to have a unit of clan rats all the time. Now, in this one, if you take a regiment, you're allowed to take 2 troops, and you can pick either one of a hero, war machine, or monster. You can't have all 3. Now, if you take a horde or a legion, you can take 4 troops and 1 each from hero, war machine, and monsters. Now, there's also a rule called sparring. Some units and heroes will have this. And this is basically like the general's leadership in Warhammer, except it's a 6-inch basic roll. So I think there's some things that make it larger. This will let you force your opponent to reroll nerve checks if they roll to rout you. Now, nerve is basically your leadership. It has 2 different values. There's a lower one and a higher one. If your opponent rolls equal to or greater than your waver point, then you waver if it's less than the rout. If they roll equal to or greater than your route point, then you've routed, you're completely destroyed. So you want, I mean, your opponent's rolling that, so there's not much you can do about stopping them from rolling that, other than just try to put the whammy on them. But you can have your inspiring units nearby to make them force them to re-roll those routes. Now, as far as hitting and shooting, all your units are going to have a melee value to hit. This is something similar to Age of Sigmar that I really hate, where a goblin's always going to hit a goblin on the same roll as it would hit a bloodthirster. I hate that. I hate here that a goblin's going to hit another goblin on the same roll as it would hit like an elite dragon lord on a dragon. I don't really like that. Hopefully in the future they're going to put a little bit more customization or differences into that. Now, for magic, magic's always going to hit on a 4 plus. Now, so for instance, if you have a lightning bolt 3 spell, that means you roll 3 dice for your lightning bolt. All 4 pluses are going to hit. Then you rolled a wound. This is going to be on the defense value. If you have a defense of 5, then your enemy needs to roll a 5 or more to wound you. If you have things like crushing strength or piercing or whatever with a little parenthesis at the number, that's how much it subtracts from your defense. Now, for our magic items, each unit and hero can take one magic item and one magic item only. Monsters and war machines can't take it as far as I've seen. So a lot of these items also seem like they're very overpriced. I think it's because they're very discouraging you to take lots of magic items. But there are some very helpful buffs in there that you're probably going to want to take lots of the time. That's like a quick overview of the roles. There's much more to the roles than that. Hopefully this is enough to help you get through these 3 reports if you're not familiar with Kings of War already. Now let's get into the army list. I have just divided it in a way so you'll know like what troops and heroes and monsters I took based on the regiments and hordes I took. You can have 25% allies, and so I'm taking goblins as allies because orcs and goblins belong together. Alright, so the special rules. All orcs have crushing strength. This is basically their chopper roll. Goblin units have a yellow belly roll. If they want to charge, they have to roll a d6. On the one, they are too scared to charge. This is basically their animosity. But for the most part, orcs and goblins don't have animosity. Alright, so I have an orc axe horde. So this lets me take troops and a hero. I took a hero and just 2 troops with that. Have 2 gore regiments. I took a hero with each one of these units. One of them is basically like an orc warlord. They call it a Crudger. I put him on a chariot. Now all flag bearers or whatever, they're basically BSBs because they have inspiring rule. And the Crudger has inspiring rule too. So it's like I have 3 BSBs and 3 generals that let me re-roll for inspiring. Now, I took my goblin allies. I have a legion of night goblin rabble. These are like basic goblins. And with that, I took 2 mobbies troops. And these are kind of like bigger squigs. They're like on cavalry bases. And I took 1 goblin wizard. He has lightning bolt 3. Now, you also note that my Crudger has a lightning bolt 2 spell. So that's my only magic I have in this game. Now, we'll look at my opponent's list. This is called the Brotherhood. This is basically their version of Bretonia. This is all because of me and my friend Paul. That if you kept my battle reports, I've fought his Vampire Council Bretonians many, many times. I challenged him to start off this tournament. I was like, let's start off Kings of War the way it's meant to be, me and you in a grudge match. So you can have. Now, the peasants seem like they're pretty good in this version, although they're to hit they need to roll 5, so they're actually worse than goblins as far as hits. And he's gonna have 3 trebuchets. This is gonna be scary. But they only hit on 5 plus. They don't have like scatter dice or artillery dice, but they need a 5 plus to hit. So 1 should hit every turn on average. His Pegasus Knights are very scary. They're movement 10, so they will charge on a 20. That outcharges anything I have, so he'll always know that he can be in charge range, and I'm not. So I have to be very careful about that. Alright, we're getting deployment, and I should note that Kings of War does not use 2 line of sight. Terrain has certain height values. I think woods are height 4, so if you're behind the woods, you can't be seen. I think hills are either height 2 or height 3. I think that people vary on that. So that I cannot see his knights, for instance, behind the hill right there. Now, obstacles, I can see his units there because they're higher than the wall, but I think his war machine is height 1, so I cannot see the war machine if I had something behind that wall in order to shoot at the war machine. Now, as far as deployment, we go one after the other, and there's nothing to say just put all characters down or all war machines down at once. So you also know he has no characters, but he got to put each trebuchet down one at a time. Now that's very interesting. He has no characters. Just keep in mind, you can play Kings of War without any characters. Now, he can do this because both his knight units have the inspiring role, and he gave an item to his Pegasus knights to give them the inspiring role. So that's his main blocks. That's like having three characters all rolled in one right there. Now here's my deployment. I liked it. I got to take a lot of the models I was going to have for Southern Assault and bring them. Um, Again, he can't see my chariot or my gores or my maul beasts that are behind the hill. Uh, Basically, my knights and my gore boar boys, they're called gore riders, and his knights have the same movement. We both have +1 speed banners on one one of our units, but his Pegasus knights are faster than anything I have. So I have to be very careful about what I'm going to have in that fight with the Pegasus knights. But otherwise, I've out deployed him as far as models being put down. All right, now this is interesting. Orc archers, so they call them skulkers in this, have the vanguard rule, so they can vanguard just like you vanguard in Warhammer. So I vanguard both my guys up because they can get in range with their bows, and it doesn't count as movement because it's a vanguard. So I think that's pretty neat. All right, I win turn for first turn. I move my bull boys and a lot of my units up. Now, it was probably a mistake for me to move my bull boys on that hill there because even though I'm out of charge range to him now, since he can always know he's in range to charge me, I'm gonna have to start pushing my bull boys back, otherwise he'll just charge me, and those knights are so powerful. They'll bot me up. So I need to probably should have kept them behind the hill. So this is my first mistake in Kings of War. Now when we go to shooting in Magic, my archers are going to do 4 points of damage to his like scout units in front of the knights. I cannot route them, but I waver them so they cannot move. So his other knights are stuck behind them because that unit cannot move. Now my lightning bolt, I think it does a point of damage to his other unit of scouts, but I don't waver them or route them at all. Now we'll go to his first turn, and like I said, his scouts that in front of the knights are wavered, so they can't move. He moves his Pegasus knights and his other scouts up. I have a Marbush troop over there where those scouts are facing, and he's trying to like bait me into charging my boar boys or gore riders, whatever, into his flank because I would easily destroy him, but then he'd have an easy charge in my flank with my gore riders. And I should note, I think I forgot to put this in the quick guide. You can never flee. So I could not flee my bull boys away. So it would be very bad for me to try to do that charge, even though it looks like a perfect flank charge. Now his shooting, he's going to shoot his big archer unit, this horde of archers, into my bull boys and do like I think it's 4 or 5 points of damage. He doesn't waver me or rout me, but that's a lot of damage being done to my bull boys already. But all three of his trebuchets are going to miss. Okay, my turn two. My maul beast are going to charge his scouts. Also, I want to say this: orcs are movement 5 in this. Think of how great that is. No animosity movement 5. This is already a way better game just based on that. But my maul beast are only movement 6. They're actually slow when you think about it. Now, if I did have their goblin version of Wolf Rider, they're movement 10, and War Boys are movement 8. So with the speed banner, they're movement 9. So generally, gun lines, just based on your speed being faster, are less effective. I haven't really faced a big gun line. I've talked to Lord Inquisitor after Southern Assault, and he's faced gun lines in Kings of War. So I think they can be very, very good because he's faced some and he's told me about it. But so far, I think speed is a good bonus to try to negate gun lines to a certain extent. Now, going into the rest of this turn, um, my archers try to rout his scouts in front of the knights, and I only do 1 point of damage after I did 4 points before. I don't waver him or rout him this time. Now, my maul beast, like I said, they easily rout his scouts. So he's to charge my maul beast, but the maul beast is worth less than the scouts, so that's a bonus for me. Now, my two lightning bolt guys shoot at his Pegasus knights, and I managed to do 2 points of damage to his Pegasus knights. Their nerve value is so high that I couldn't route them or waver them. But it's also worth noting that if you roll a double 6 for your opponent's nerve, they will always waver, even if you're nowhere near having them waver. So that's always worth going for. Now we're going to go to Brotherhood turn 2. Oh my god. Look what his scouts did. They charged my bull boys and routed them. They're freaking scouts. These are basically like peasant yeomen or whatever in Bretonia, but they routed my boar boy regiment. Oh, I would be able to counter charge my orcs because I can move my archer. Remember, I can move that archer unit out of the way and then charge the axe horde into the the peasants. But gosh, lost them. He also wipes out my maw beast troop. Mm, it was bad. It was a bad turn for me. My turn three. Look at this crap. I charge my axe horde at his peasant horsemen's guys, scouts, whatever they're called. I moved that archer unit out of the way. I go in with I think that horde has 25 attacks. I decimate him, but then I roll to nerve check. I roll double ones. That means he always stays. I just rolled insane courage for my opponent. Can you believe that? I rolled insane courage for my opponent. So I moved back an inch, and now he can countercharge me and do free damage on my axe horde. Ugh. Now his turn three, he's going to charge those scouts to do free damage in my axe horde. I can't remember what he does. I think he does maybe 4 or 5 points of damage to my axe horde. I easily pass my nerve test when he rolls them. He's moving his Pegasus Knights up. You can notice I've moved my chariot and Boar Boys back behind that hill because I realize I'm never going to get the charge on them if I stay where he can see me. He can't see me where I'm at now, so now at least I can try to bait him to a point where he charges my rabble maybe, and I can hold long enough to countercharge. Because if he charges where he's partly on the hill or something, that's what I'm hoping for. Okay, my turn four. I countercharge his his scouts. Finally wiped them out. If you also notice in the upper right hand corner, I had a mob beast pack that had moved around out of everybody's way and charged his trebuchet. I destroyed that trebuchet, and I've turned around so that he can charge me. Um, I think you can barely see the unit, but he's going to charge me and destroy me later. Um, Other than that, I do some more lightning bolt stuff. I think I maybe do another point of damage to his Pegasus, but I do not route them away for them. Okay, his turn four. Now you can see that the knight unit he had, it was on the previous turn that he had destroyed that Maul Beast troop. So now he's moving back up here. So the Maul Beast was supposed to charge much earlier than I thought. Alright, he charges his middle knight unit at my axe horde and his Pegasus Knights at my rabble. So they both should hopefully hold, but ooh, it's going to be scary. Alright, so if you look at the in a turn, the dice behind is how much damage he's done. So he's done a lot of damage to my axe horde, but he cannot rout me or waver me. So I'm going to get a free counter charge off of his knights. Same thing happened with the Pegasus, and one of them on the hill, so my chariot, my Crudgeon chariot, can see them. So hopefully I can charge my goblins and the chariot at his Pegasus Knights. And again, note that even though it looks like those archers are in the way, I can move them out of the way and then charge the goblins in. So that's another thing you have to get used to in Kings of War. That in Warhammer, I would not be able to charge that goblins really. Well, I could charge him and he could wield to me, but I would in this case, though, I don't have to worry about that. I can just move the archers out of the way. Okay, so I'm on turn 5. Now, I'm not sure where my other archer unit went. I think it got routed by Trebuchet on the previous turn. But I'm going to countercharge with both. But then I realize I have to do the yellow belly roll of my night goblins. And what do I, of course, roll? Well, regular goblins, no, not night goblins. I roll a 1. So that Goblin Legion cannot charge the freaking Pegasus Knights. Oh! I do get the charge of my Crudger. Oh my goodness. Only Orcs and Goblins. But at the end of my turn 5, my Orc on the Chariot does so much damage that I do rout his Pegasus. Even though he had an item that let them reroll that, I still rout them. Thanks to those little lightning bolts, I did enough damage that I was able to roll high enough to make him rout. Alright, so I reform my chariot to face the flank of his knights because my Orc archers did not rout his knights. So now I'm going to have 2 knights, because you know I see he's picking up that knight unit. 2 knight units come my axe horde. They're in bad shape. They are in bad shape. And this at the end of his turn 5, that axe horde was toast. I'm gone. All I have that is my flag bearer. He was sitting behind that unit, like giving me my rerolls. So he's still there. Now he reforms one of his knight units to face my Crudger on the chariot. The other one's still facing my flag bearer. I can move that flag bearer out of the way, or I can charge it at the flank. of his knights. My goblins can see his front, so I can, if I can pass my yellow belly roll, I can charge my chariot and the goblin legion into the front of those knights, and then my BSB into the flank. Now, normally on a flank charge, you get double attacks, but not if you have the individual roll, so that BSB shouldn't get it. And if you charge in the rear, you'll get triple attacks. So movement is very, very important in Kings of War. Oh, also, if you look up also at the top, his archer horde has charged my troop of archers, orc archers. He wavers me. He doesn't rout me. That is crazy. I only have 10 guys. He has 40. But it's their attacks. They're peasants, so their attacks is so bad that he doesn't. He don't think he only does 4 to me, um, and I pass. He's not able to rout me. All right, my turn 6. My night goblins pass the yellow belly. I charge into the front with my chariot and my legion. I don't charge my BSB guy. I just move him so he's out of line of sight. So he's going to have to do a hit with me with a trebuchet or something to kill that BSB. I cannot charge my archers back into his archers because I've wavered. My goblin wizard up there, he wants to shoot at that trebuchet. He's at range, but I cannot see it because of block and wall. So I think I just shoot at his archers and do maybe 1 or 2 wounds. I can't do anything to him. But I've wiped out that knight unit. So uh, I've lost 2 of my units because I think trebuchets destroyed my other Borbor unit. So I've lost my 2 Borbor units, but I've taken out his Pegasus Knights and one of his units of Knights. So he's ahead right now, but I'm doing way better than I thought for my first game. Now we're going to cut to his turn 6. And his knights could see my Goblin Legion. They charge them and they rout them good. So I've lost that Legion. Now, also look at the damage to my chariot. He gets direct hit with a trebuchet on my chariot. Does 5 points of damage. Luckily, I don't rout. And I must have wavered him with my Goblin Wizard because he does not rout my other Orc Archer unit also. So the game's going to end here. Normally in Kings of War, you can play a 7th turn, but for purposes of this tournament, there was a rule that you only played 6 turns. So yeah, the game's going to end here. I think it was pretty good from our first game. So now when we add this up, we were using a 20-0 system, just like they usually use in Warhammer. The main difference was that every 100 points difference gave you an extra point instead of 200 or 250, which is normal for a 2,500 point Warhammer game since it's just 1,500 points. So he was up by like 220, so he's going to be up 12-8 in terms of scoring. So I think for my very first game of Kings of War, this is a very good result. I was expected to get 20-0 laughed off the table, so I think I did pretty good. I mean, my opponent only played I think 10 games, but that's still a lot more experience than I have. But I don't think it's enough to really master Kings of War. So in one respect, we were both basically beginners. But I'm still going to take this 12-8. Even though it's technically a loss, I'll be happy with it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you learned anything about Kings of War, assuming you didn't know anything about Kings of War. And if you play Kings of War, if you know any tips I should have done, feel free to let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I have 2 more Kings of War games before we get into the main Southern Salt tournament. My next one's going to be against Salamanders, which is basically their version of Lizardmen. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.